approximately 6 o'clock. Hereby call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen of the town of Rancho Viejo on September the 11th, 2007. Cheryl, if you do a roll call, please.
I recognize the following present: Mr. Dorsett, Mrs. Garza, Mr. Hufford, Mrs. Lutens, and Mr. Salinas. So we do have a quorum for the meeting, and Daniel Renfro, legal counsel, is here.
If everyone would stand, we were going to do the pledge to the Texas flag. We seem to have the copy that's out, seems to be the wrong copy, an old copy. We're not going to do that. At the next Aldermen's meeting, we'll have the correct version. William says that there's a newer version.
There's a new phrase that's been added just about 2 months ago.
Okay, well then we'll wait
So
for next
rather
time.
than do the wrong one, we'll wait and do the pledge to the Texas flag. We all honor the Texas flag, I'm sure. By not doing the pledge doesn't disgrace it or not honor it. We've never done it in Rancho since I have been around this meeting. So we won't do it this time. We'll have the correct one for the next meeting, and we'll do the pledge to the Texas flag at the next meeting. And Ms. Lutens, if you'd give us the invocation, then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes. Father, before we begin our work this evening, let us acknowledge and remember the events of September 11th, 2001. Let us be united in courage and grief as we remember the prayer of David Cohen, NYPD Deputy Police Commissioner for Counterterrorism. We pray for the survivors of September 11th, 2001. We pray for the families who lost loved ones. We pray for the rescue workers and police that were on the scene that day and continue to protect us. We pray for the doctors and nurses that cared for so many hurt, injured, and dying. We pray for the reporters who worked through continuous and intense emotions. We pray for our president and other elected officials who so desperately need wisdom beyond themselves. We pray for our military and intelligence services. We pray for our spiritual leaders, and finally we continue to pray for our great country. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, I hope you'll notice we have a new sound system installed, and I hope that everyone can hear it. You may hear some things you don't want to hear with any sidebar comments, but as far as I know, they'll all be cleaned anyway. Number 4 on the agenda is residence forum. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to on some subject other than those subjects that are going to be covered in the agenda? Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually,
State your name and your address with me.
123 Pizarro, and my name's Eric Valle, and I just want to tell you all the event that happened on July 23rd, the morning of the 23rd. My mother was out walking her dogs anywhere between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, and so they were spraying for mosquitoes, and the guy sprayed right past her, right? Which you think is no big deal, but subsequently she ended up 3 ER visits, hospital for a week, and developed chemical pneumonia from the spraying of the mosquito stuff itself. And actually the one thing that really drives me crazy is there was no notification given of the time of the spraying that was going to be done. And so I looked up Control 4-4, and that's what y'all have been using here. And if you read all the information on it, yes, it is inert, inactive, and relatively safe as long as it's on the ground. But it's when it's actually, it's a petroleum-based poison, right? So as you breathe it in, that's when it does the damage. So as it stands right now, she has her lung capacity back up to about 90–95%. So there was a letter that came out that said the only notification y'all are going to consider doing is raising a flag at City Hall to let people know spraying is going to be done. That's great if everyone drove out City Hall every day. But you know, there's 4 entrances. What about the residents that don't even leave Rancho for the day to even know? So I'm just really concerned, and I don't want this to happen to anyone else. So I think that's completely inadequate what y'all have planned about raising up a little flag, because there's so many entrances. Because I know majority of people, I mean, everyone I've polled on my end at Rancho doesn't even leave out this entrance. So that's my big area of concern right now.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bond?
Sir?
That's okay. After looking at what he had said, which I had heard from him previously, so I was aware of what he was going to say, is that we've decided that we can't call everyone in Rancho Viejo to let them know that we're getting ready to mosquito spray the next day, and that some notification. Now, we will notify everybody based on an email address. If we have an email address, when we're going to spray for mosquitoes, the day before, we'll send that email out to everyone we haven't that's registered for that. We'll also put the sign up by the town hall. In a few moments, we're going to discuss putting a sign, a marquee, a monument sign in front of City Hall, and we would also announce it on that. We also will put it on our webpage that we're going to be spraying for mosquitoes the next day. The report on the chemical that we use is here, and it's available for anyone to look at. But it's used in all the cities. In any city that I've ever lived in, I've never been notified that they're going to be spraying for mosquitoes. In fact, there's been many times that I just held my nose until the truck went by and through. But this says the acute oral toxicity is considered to be low. Inhalant toxicity is considered to be low. Symptoms of excessive exposure, including squinting eyes, irregular and rattled breathing, headaches, dizziness, and so forth, or what it says could happen with intensive inhalation. So it's the same chemical that's used in the cities that I've checked with. But that data on that material is available for anyone to look at. We will hang a sign up here the day before we're going to spray for mosquitoes the next morning, which starts around 5 o'clock. He had also, Ms. Volley had also asked me, or Ms. Volley had asked, could we not do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? The problem with mosquito spraying is this poison kills the mosquitoes that are flying, not the ones that are nesting. And you need to do it during their active times, and those are early in the morning or late at night, both of which are bad times because that's when people are out walking, early in the morning and late at night. So we'll do everything we can to try to let people know when the mosquito spraying is going on, but it would be impossible to individually notify every resident. And if anyone has any suggestions on what we do about that, I'd love to know.
Mayor, I think you had also brought up the suggestion about anybody who has emails will also be notified via email.
They would. So we have quite a few email addresses of people we send out minutes to and people we send out the agendas to. All of those people will be getting the notification the day before we actually do the mosquito spraying. Yes, ma'am?
How do you determine when you're going to do it?
There's a couple of ways. One is the mosquitoes typically are worse on the golf course than there are anywhere else. So we check with the workers, with Doug Pentecoff and the workers on the golf course for them to let us know when they're starting to get bad on the golf course. Another way is I weed these gardens, these flower gardens out here, and when I can't stand it because the mosquitoes are getting to be too bad, or Cheryl seems to be a mosquito attraction when she gets bit too often walking in and out, and people call. Any of those conditions would set off.
You don't have a particular schedule?
No, ma'am, because the mosquitoes here are more based on rain than they are indigenous. They seem, there are some people that have stagnant water on their property, and that is going to create some mosquitoes, but most of the mosquitoes come from the stagnant water that's on the golf course and all those little ponds and in low spots and so forth. Now, I have been driving around in the golf cart throwing those, what we call donuts. They kill the larvae that's in the water, and they do it for about 30 days. Now I don't feel like I'm talking at all. Can you still hear me? No, that's okay. I think that that's one of the reasons we have less mosquitoes after this last rain we had, is because we're trying to treat the stagnant water as we find it. But we'll spray. At one time, the spraying was split between the town and the golf course, Rancho Viejo. They're not willing to pay for that anymore. We have to consider whether we want to spray the golf course or whether we don't want to spray the golf course. It's my opinion that I can't take a chance that somebody's going to get bit by a mosquito, which most of them breed on the golf course, and get West Nile, because I was trying to prove a point. So right now, we're going ahead and spraying the golf course. At the same time, we are working on and will introduce ordinances that will include the golf course in the requirement to not or to treat any stagnant water. Right now, the ordinance says lot or lots. The ordinance after that, that doesn't apply to stagnant water, says lot, lots, or acreage. We're going to, at a minimum, add acreage into the one for stagnant water that says lot or lots. At that point in time, we'll be able to enforce them controlling the stagnant water, just as we would if you had a spare tire on your property with water in it. We could tell you that you need to get that done. So we'll be able to enforce that at that time. We were still standing bills, but we don't get paid. We just build up accounts payable with the club. But most of them are there. Yes, sir.
Are those donuts available for residents who can put them in the ditches and things like that? I've seen a lot of them sitting after the rain. I know that mosquitoes would be killed if you threw them in.
We can make those available. Right now, they're in my golf cart. Our total supply of the city is in my golf cart. And I drive around looking for water and throw them in. But I also know where I've thrown them because they last for 30 days. Even if you get a new rain, and even if that puddle gets down to almost no water, and it covers about 100 feet and as low as deep as it is. So they're pretty powerful. They work pretty good. But we need a new supply of it because I've used most of them up, and we can have those at the city for, and actually, we'll even publicize that fact. I think that would be a great idea for people that found stagnant water to use that.
Excuse me, Mayor, could I say one more thing? I would encourage residents too, if you have particularly dense vegetation on your properties, to perhaps address that, because we can spray all day long and put donuts out, but I'm wondering about the effectiveness of even spraying when you have particularly dense vegetation on your properties.
Kind of depends on we're spraying the right of ways. That's not really what we're spraying. The spray moves about 100 to 150 feet. That's about what it does, what the air will take it before it would run out. If it's a heavy wind blowing, we may not get it in all the areas we need. But we're hoping that some of the spray gets to your backyard. We know it's going to get to your front yard. We hope some of it gets to your backyard. Any more questions before we get into tonight's agenda? Yes, sir.
Dr. Jim, 1205 Tesoro. I wanted to thank whoever's responsible for moving those gross signs that were at Cortez and those poles out here. The city looks so much better without those, so I appreciate how it was done. I have a question about the lots at the end of Enchilada. I don't know what's happened to that, but I see they're advertised as being cleared, filled, surveyed, and engineered. Is that a true advertisement?
I don't know. They're not approved by the city or by the town. I don't know what level of engineered they are, what level of surveyed they are. Well, they are surveyed, but I don't know what level of engineered. I know the advertisement you're talking about, that has nothing to do with the town. If they were sold under those conditions, we would not approve a building going on them.
So it's just sitting as far as the city goes?
That's correct. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting with Mr. Renfro and their attorney, and after the meeting said that we would have a follow-up meeting with the engineers. Nothing happened on that, so I contacted Mr. Trapp to make sure that he didn't think that the city or the town was sitting on it. He said, no, we'll call you if we need you. So So we left it at that. We haven't done anything with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Jane Rosamond, 1001 Tesoro. Mayor, I was wondering if you had had any additional conversation with Scott Pajeski regarding either the repair, the replacement of the recirculating bird bath fountain that the garden club donated to landscaping.
It's done.
Okay. And so it's just not on.
No, it's on.
Okay, I guess I just didn't notice it.
It was on for a little while today, and we have enough clouds that because of the solar panel didn't pick it up. But it did run today. I saw it running today for a little while.
Well, we're having a meeting on Monday, and I knew that question might come up, so I wanted to be able to.
It took an awful long time. And what he's told us this last time, he actually did the replacement himself. He ordered the parts, did the replacement, and so forth. But he said since it's a non-industrial use, that we may have to change that motor out every 3 or 4 months, but it's like $30 or $60, $30 I think he said, maybe every 6 months or so. I don't know what that means. We'll have to wait and see. But it sure looks a heck of a lot better when it's running than when it's not running.
Exactly. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions before we go on to the agenda? All right, number 5, approval of the minutes. In the packet sent out, we have minutes of the regularly scheduled August the 14th, 2007 minutes. Has anybody have any corrections or modifications to them? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes of the August 14th meeting.
Second motion.
All in favor? August the 23rd special meeting. Any changes or modifications? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move we approve the August 23rd meeting.
Second.
All in favor? August the 30th special meeting. Any modifications or changes? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move we approve the August 30th meeting, special meeting minutes.
Here a second.
Second motion.
All in favor? Number 6 is discussion of installation and type of monument sign or marquee for town hall. I have some pictures here I'm going to pass down. Pass those down to Carla. There's 2 different types there. One is an aluminum type. This is the aluminum type. This is, see, there's a bit of difference, but it looks very professional. Stucco. And that looks like a little more professional. Anyway, I was thinking that if we put up a monument or a marquee out in the corner past the parking lot on the corner of Hidalgo and Carmen, we could make all the announcements that we don't have any outlet to make now, like special meetings of the aldermen's meetings, mosquito spraying, planning and zoning, board of appeals and adjustment, all of these type meetings, and any special information that the town was trying to get to the citizens of Rancho. And really just want everyone's thought on that.
I'd like to suggest putting it further back over here, like near the entrance where our police go, well, the side street here, I can't remember the name.
Angelitas?
The reason is, people coming in can see it, and people who come from the store can see it also.
We don't own that property though.
No, the corner of our property.
Okay, yeah, that's where I was saying, right out here on Carmen and Hidalgo.
Hidalgo's over here, right?
Yeah, Hidalgo was the one running north and south, parallel to the freeway.
And what's this little street right here?
Well, Angelitas is this street that goes down to the back entrance, but we don't own that property there. We only own it to the end of our parking lot straight down.
Excuse me, I would like to say the corner of Hidalgo and Carmen would be in a appropriate place because we just don't know at this point what's going up on the other piece of property. There's been a lot of talk about office buildings and that kind of thing, and I'm sure they're going to want to have entrance and exit areas and signs. So it should be, I think, a little closer to.
In fact, the plans could change, but the current plans are for our parking lot to be an extended parking lot on around the Carmen side with common use. That could change, but that's the way it is now. And if that were the case, and we put that outside that parking lot, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be obstructed by the building that might go in on the Angelitas and Carmen side of that lot.
The one comment I have, I think overall it's a good idea, but there's quite a ditch out there. It's gonna take some dirt work or something to, so when we're looking at the price of the sign, there's gonna be a plus later to it.
And in looking at the types of signs, I wanted to just add that, well, there's an aluminum one and a stucco one. I think the stucco one looks a lot nicer and would probably last a lot longer.
It looks more like our building and professionally done rather than a school. The aluminum ones look more like the schoolyards and those type of things. I'm going to put these out on the table or pass them down. Y'all here in the audience can look at them.
Mayor, I do have one other question.
Yep.
In regards to financing. That would come out of this current year's budget versus next year's budget if we were to decide to do something like that.
That's correct. Does anyone have any strong objections, other than we have an ordinance that requires people not to put up monumental signs? Other than that?
We are exempt from that.
That's great.
What is the height on that?
10 and 12.
Except they're going to be on a concrete base, and that concrete base could be ground level, it could be 6 inches high, it could be 12 inches high, kind of depending on visibility. I think I want it where it's about 2 or 3 inches off of the ground, and that's about it. I just think it looks better. But
I suggest we go with a smaller version too, because 12 feet.
yeah, I agree with you. Yes, sir.
Is it going to be computer controlled?
No.
Somebody's going to have to go.
Yes.
Why not computer controlled?
Just the cost.
So much easier, save money if some policeman out there putting stuff up.
I was going to send that job to Cheryl. We can look at computer control, but these are already fairly expensive. Less than $10,000, but approaching it, depending on which one we get. We can go from a low of about $6,600 up to $9,700 without any controls. Now, there will be electrical going to it. They are backlit. So we have a wireless system. Maybe we could just control it wirelessly. That's a good thought. We'll look at that quickly. Number 7, consideration adoption of the budget ordinance for fiscal year October the 1st, 2007 to September the 30th, 2007. 2008. The copy of the budget that was issued the last time and the final budget is the same except for the fire department got us their budget last Friday, I think, and we changed it, and that budget went up from what we had anticipated it was going to be based on last year's spending. It went up by, what, $600? So we've adjusted the budget by the fire department now budget is $8,450. We first put it in at $9,150. We changed it to $8,450, and the previous one was in the $7,000 high area, something like that. And that was based on the expenditures for the year, which are only so far $6,378.87. So we fudged it a little bit, and then I think Mr. Stevenson fudged it a little more, trying to get a little extra out of it. So, but both are less than the budget that we used last year. First of all, are there any questions from anybody here in the public that about the budget, or concerns, or issues, or comments? Anybody on the board of Aldermen have any questions, comments? Do I hear a motion to approve?
That's just the motion.
Yeah, just a motion, isn't it, right? Okay. So to hear a motion to approve the budget?
So moved.
Here a second?
Second.
All in favor? Before we get to number 8, this is, some people can't make it to this meeting, and because Chris is so willing to tape it and put it on our internet site, some people actually watch the Board of Aldermen's meeting from the comfort of their living room on their computer. So I know that everyone in this room and all the aldermen understand this, but I want to explain the budget process just a little bit anyway. There are dates that are required by state law for us to do certain things. So the first budget is required by state law to be done, be presented to the Board of Aldermen 30 days in advance of the final approval. We try to do that at the end of July. Then we have 2 advertising dates that we have to do. They have to be in 15 days before the first public hearing, 10 days before the second public hearing. And then the people that do the collection and billing for our property taxes have to have it by sometime later this week, Thursday or Friday or somewhere in there, in order to get the tax bills out on time. So all of this has to step in the series. It has to be done, not based on when we want to, but how it's regulated by state law. The first budget we do is done by what Cheryl needs in her department, what Chief Cruz needs in his department, and all the other departments the budget committee goes over and throws in all their wants and all their needs. We total that up, calculate what revenue we need, and that's what the tax rate is. If it's over the rollback rate, which is 8% over the previous year's tax rate, not counting debt service. So it was 32.7 before last year, we can raise it 8%. You add debt service on top of that, which is a little over 3 cents, and that is what the new tax rate is. If that rate is over the 8% that we can add, then we cut right there and get it back down to the rate equal to the maximum tax rate that we can charge. That's what's called the rollback rate. That's based on the revenue, the tax rate from last year. That's then presented to the Board of Aldermen. That's not a final budget. It's got many more days and many more hours of work to be done. After that budget's submitted, then we have contracts with various agencies that we get during the month of August. Those are things that could be as high as what our EMS bill is. There are things like the audit contract with the auditor. There's the fire department's budget. There's many other contracts. We also use in the first budget the CPI. We raise people based on the CPI, Consumer Price Index. In that first budget, the July, which is the final Consumer Price Index that we use for determining raises, isn't out. We used the June. June was 2.7, July's was 2.4. So we readjust the budget again for the final CPI figure. During the month of August, we negotiated a new group insurance contract with TML. We lowered our costs by our cost per employee, which the city pays 100% of. We lowered that cost substantially. We upped the deductible and we upped the out-of-pocket. But we made it more competitive with where industry is. We're nowhere near where industry is. But we had a $100 deductible, and I think it was a $1,500 out-of-pocket. We've gone up to $200 deductible, and we've gone up to $1,800 out-of-pocket. Still way less than my insurance, and I work for a very large national corporation. But we negotiated a new contract, so we changed that. After reviewing the collection rate on our property taxes for the last 5 years, we determined that we could go to a 97% collection rate, which we collect more than 97% every year, rather than a 96% collection rate, which we had previously been using. During the budget process, we had subprime mortgage rates hit the fan. People became concerned about it. They decided to cut the discount rate. When they decided to cut the discount rate, which is the rate that's used between banks, the 90-day T-bill, which is where we get our interest paid, went from over 5% to less than 3%. It didn't stay there. It's not there now. But we adjusted the interest we expected to receive from our deposits in the bank to a lower figure based on what was happening to the 90-day T-bill. The gas had been put into the budget at $3 a gallon. We determined that we're really not going to be paying that. We get a discount off of that because we don't pay the taxes. We decided to cut that to $2.50 a gallon rather than $3 a gallon. And then, in a critical review, taking many hours of every account, we made some small adjustment to maybe 60% of the accounts during this budget process, which was the approximately 30-day period. I think that the budget that you guys approved is lean, and I think it's clean. If you'll look at the budget from last year, you'll notice that we have quarterly budget hearings, meetings, where we make adjustments to the budget based on what happens during that quarter. If you look at last year, the budget that we started with at the first of the year and the budget that we wound up with at the end of the year are substantially the same. We did a good job with the budget last year. This was a little tighter than last year. We're talking about approximately $11,000 surplus. But I feel certain we'll make it for this one also. So anyway, that's the budget process, just so everyone will know that it's a process. We take input from people and we thank them for that. We spend an awful lot of hours going through and reviewing all the facts that we have. Looks like a good budget. Sure you're tired of me talking, so let's go to number 8. Consideration and ratification of property tax increase reflected in the budget for fiscal year October the 1st, 2007 to September the 30th, 2008. On that tax increase, there is a tax increase. There's not a tax rate increase. There's a tax increase because of the evaluation of property. If it went up, multiplied by the same 36 cents, you're going to be paying more property tax. So if your evaluation of your property went up and you're still paying 36 cents, whatever that difference is going to be an increase in property tax to you. That's why this says, on number 8, consideration ratification of the property tax increase. Not the rate, but the property tax increase. we are going to create more money from the same property, not counting the new property. We're going to create more money, we're going to have more money come in from that same property because the valuation of the property increased in Rancho Viejo last year. My property increased. I'm going to be paying more taxes. The year before I fought it and won, but I said, nah, I better not fight it, because, you know, I'll wait till I'm not mayor, then I'll fight my property, let the city have all that extra money that they're getting on the inflated value of my property. But let them have it, we'll go with it. Hearing the discussion on the property tax, number 8, the property tax increase. If not, do I hear a motion?
I move we ratify the budget, which will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by $31,537, or 4.532%.
Hear a second? Second. All in favor? That language that Gene just said is mandatory. He didn't just come up with it. Have to use that language. He probably helped the state come up with that language, but you have to use that language. Number 9, consideration adoption of ordinance to establish ad valorem tax rate to provide for budget expenses for fiscal year 2007-2008. That tax rate is 36 cents. Do I hear the discussion on that? Do you hear a motion?
I move that property taxes be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 36 cents for each $100 of assessed valuation of all ad valorem and personal property, and the adoption of ordinance number 169.
Do you hear a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor? And the ordinance 169 is just the ordinance that allows this property tax to be assessed against the property values of Rancho Viejo. Oh, I'd like to skip this one, but number 10, consideration approval of Section 11 engineering for road construction and appraisal of lots on the condition that 75% of Section 11 property owners agree to pay upfront construction costs of road construction, engineering, and appraisal, with 90% basis for construction of the road, electrical, street lights, and signs, and 100% of engineering appraisal if we don't continue with the project. Otherwise, these will be at 90% also. The road construction includes concrete shoulders or curbs, drainage as engineered by VMUD2. So I guess what we're saying is that we want to either give or not give approval to get the engineering done to put a road in on Section 11, and the appraisal of the property to ensure that we can charge the 90% of the construction costs to the property. If the property value did not go up enough, then we could charge only up to the new appraised value. In this case, it's all land, it's no value right now. It will go up to the proper amount. But then the landowners will be paying at a 90% rate should we go ahead. If, though, the engineering and the appraisal comes back such that the property owners will not commit funds to fund it at 75% on the front end, not on the tail end, and the project doesn't go forward, that they'll come up with the money to pay for it, the engineering and appraisal at 100%. Mr. Russell, do you have any comments to that, or do you disagree with anything I said?
I think it'd be better if I just sat here and listened.
That's what, a lot of people have said that about you. But did I say anything wrong with what we've agreed to?
No, but you might want to point out that the 10% is by law.
Yeah. The highway construction, the maximum amount that we can assess is 90%. We can have agreements for more than that. It's possible that we could do the concrete shoulders at 100%. But we were, as a package, going to put this in at 90%. If anyone disagrees with that, you know, speak up. I mean, because this isn't a done deal until it's a done deal. Now, on the the engineering cost, we don't bid engineering, but I've got two indications as to price, and it looks like we can get the engineering done for about $18,000. I don't know what the appraisal cost will be. Don't have any idea. We've got two suggestions as what the cost would be, and one of them is about $18,000, and the other one's about 10%, which is about $46,000, $48,000, somewhere there. If we approve this, we would then come back and have to approve the advertising and contracting to get it done as a separate item or agenda. Now, the 75% is we have, let's say that we have 46 lots there. 17 of those lots are going to pay up 100% on the front end. We have another capability of getting $250,000 on the front end. That's going to be about the 75%, without talking to another single owner.
I better point out that the $250,000 is going to be secured by the liens that the city will put on those lots.
That's right.
It will be funded up to the city up front. So
yeah.
The city will have 75% of the funds up front, you know, period, in your bank account before they even start, before you even start.
Actually, I think we'll have more than that.
Probably so, but that's the minimum.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Where does the $250,000 secured come from?
An independent person that has an interest in this, Paul Smith, is the person that's willing to put up that money.
Or you could, if you'd like to.
Or you could.
Well, he's doing 17 of them.
Well, I know, but that was your objection in the one meeting we had when.
And I went back and raised the 250 to continue forward.
Oh, okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
What we've got is we have one person on one side of the street that is not willing to, we can put lien on his property, but he's not willing to come up with the money. And essentially, of that $250,000, about $180,000 of that is going to be to cover the liens that we put on his property. Then, or $200,000, whatever it is. And then the rest of the money will be used to secure liens on other people that don't want to pay on the upfront side.
So you're saying the 75% approval rating is coming from Mr. Russell, basically?
I'm up to about 68%. There still needs to be about 7 lots to reach the 75%. And if the 7 lots don't do it, then there's nothing I can tell them. You're idiots. I mean.
Well, I know that from the one meeting I attended, there was a gentleman who owned from Mexico, apparently.
Yes.
Quite a bit of property. But how would you manage that? You just put a lien on his property if he doesn't give you approval?
That's correct.
Because at that point you feel you have the 75%.
Because of this person putting up $250,000, if it weren't for that, we wouldn't get 75% because 50% of it, approximately 50% of it is owned by that one person. So if it's going to cost $15,000, $18,000 a lot to get the road, that's water, sewer, road, and everything. So if it's going to cost $8,000 a lot, then that $250,000 is going to cover quite a few lots.
How does Mr. Pope's development of this property affect that? Because he was going to pick up everything from...
It's going to save you probably $200,000 or $300,000 because of the lift station that's being put in, that he negotiated a great deal with VMUD, and that maybe VMUD would not negotiate that good of a deal again to independent. I don't mean to speak for VMUD, they may very well do that, but putting that lift station in, that Mr. Pope has already got agreements with VMUD, really moves the project along quite a bit.
Okay, I was curious about that, because as I understood the initial discussion, it was that Mr. Pope would fund the money to get all the utilities in the road in, and then anybody developing at that point would be assessed. But is that gonna change?
Well, that was never the agreement. The agreement was that Mr. Pope was gonna get the utilities and the water and sewer to his property. The road he was gonna put in was a temporary road that was gonna be covered. It was gonna be narrower and covered with caliche, with just an asphalt or oil-based top, rather than a road that meets the standards of our specifications.
Right. And then there was discussion about having to redo it and paying twice.
That's correct. But Mr. Pope will apply that monies that he was going to use to build that road to building the final road, or the road that's built to specifications.
And is all that's going to be set out in writing to whoever the property owners are?
There will be an agreement with the property owners on what they're going to be required to pay and what they're getting for that.
Well, that's understandable, but I was wondering if everything is gonna, the whole agreement is gonna be in writing, so that everyone has an understanding of what's being paid by Mr. Pope, what's being paid by the property owner, and where the $250,000 comes in. And because Mr. Pope is providing the lift station, it's that much savings to the property owners who would ordinarily not be subjected to a possible lien, but they would be assessed that bill when they put in their electric and sewer later on. If you understand.
Each individual lot owner will know what that lien or assessment is going to be on their property.
Right.
Each one will know on the front end.
Right, but are they gonna have an understanding of how that works out? Because this is very complicated.
In every case, it's going to be done on a linear foot basis. So you'll know the total cost of the project, you know what your frontage to the road is in linear feet. And if we take the total linear feet, divide it into the total cost of the project, multiplied by that linear feet that's in front of your property, that's what your cost will be.
Right, I understand that, but what I was wondering is all the rest of the agreement gonna be set out where the $250,000 comes in, where Mr. Smith is involved and all that, so there's a complete understanding of for each property owner of how this develops?
I don't mind telling them.
I mean,
it's really of no consequence. The property's going to be assessed the same way. That money's going to be supplied to the city on the front end, and it's going to be applied to those people that will not pay their portion on the front end, starting with probably Mr. Betty-Al's first.
Then, the answer is no. People won't get an idea of how all of this developed.
I thought I just said how it developed.
I know.
And I'd be happy to meet with everyone, actually.
And that might be a good thing. Because there are a lot of people, from the last meeting we had, as far as I know, I don't recognize any faces here but Mr. Russell's that's involved. And there are a lot of property owners. And somebody's just gonna get a bill in the mail, and they're gonna say, what's all this about? With no explanation. And I think that, if they're gonna go about it this way, someone should.
You can answer that.
Sure.
Jack, that will not happen. If you're asked to sign an agreement, you'll get a cost breakdown of what the costs are and project out.
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith is gonna guarantee payment of up to $250,000. In effect, she'll buy those assessments.
Right.
But I wouldn't sign any agreement if I were you unless I had a cost breakdown of what was gonna happen, what the money was gonna be used for. So you'll get that.
And I know that
if you don't get that before the assessments are imposed, the town will have to have another public hearing at which Mr. Gonzalez will be there and we'll set out the cost breakdown.
Yeah.
So you'll get that information one way or the other.
I know that you'll be provided with linear foot cost basis.
You will.
Sure, that's easy.
But it'll be broken down, that part of the engineering will be for Mr. Gonzalez, or whoever the engineer is, to do that work. So you can see how much it is for the different components.
I don't object to the assessment. I would like to see a breakdown of, how the agreement evolved.
Can I just say something?
But you need to, this is the conversation between y'all. If you want to address the board
I would like to
involvement.
address the board. I would just like everybody to realize that everybody is paying the same amount. Nobody is coming out of this any better than anybody else. Every lot owner is paying the same amount. And then more so, an individual has stepped up to the plate to allow this to happen and is agreeing to fund the liens. If somebody else wants to fund these liens, more power to you.
But let me, where the money comes from is immaterial to you, as long as this town has it. We're gonna have a cost for the total project. We're gonna have linear feet per every lot. We're gonna take the total cost of the project, divide it by the linear feet, we're gonna come up with what the assessment's gonna be for every person. How it's funded is, you wanna pay yours on the front end? Good. We got an agreement, you paid it front. You wanna pay yours with 8% interest over a year? Okay, good. You signed that for a year. You wanna pay for 42 lots? Good. You pay for 42. You wanna pay for 6? Good. You pay for 17. That's the way it'll be. Every person will have the same responsibility based on their lot size and their linear foot and their appraisal.
And the gentleman from Mexico had liens put on his lots.
And those liens will then be transferred to the lender. That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't understand a lot of the workings of this.
Sure.
I wanted some clarification.
It's been in work for a long time, too, as you know.
Fine. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Dan, did I understand you to say that the lender is going to buy the liens on the property for Mexico, the property?
In layman's terms, yes. I don't know technically if they'll buy them or they'll guarantee payment, how that's gonna work.
My biggest concern with this structure right now is, filing the lien on the property is one thing. Collecting the money is quite a different.
Those liens,
If some, and he seems to be the holdout, he or she, or I don't know who it is, but he seems to be the holdout in this deal. And I don't want to put the city in a position where we have to file a lien on a piece of property like his that may not be sold for who knows when. So we've got a lien that's really uncollected.
those are gonna be transferred to the lender without recourse.
Right. We won't have a receivable from them.
Okay.
As that lien is prepared, it will be assigned, bought for however legal term that Dan has to do, to this pool of $250,000. That person put that up.
Without recourse.
Without recourse, yes.
Okay.
Now, we'll make our normal attempt to collect, and if the property changes hands, that'll have to be paid for before it can change hands. That money will go to the person that put up the $250,000.
That remains to be seen, how much of a collection effort we'll make.
The same amount that we do right now. Yes, sir.
Would you tell the gentleman that Mr. Pope is not building a lift station?
Well, VMUD's building a lift station.
Mr. Pope's not paying for it either.
Oh, is he not? I thought he had an agreement with him to do that. Okay.
Well, where does
I guess VMUD's putting the lift station money up.
And is that gonna be part of the assessment? Or are they gonna do that out of the goodness of their heart?
It won't be part of the assessment if no one does this, because they'll still have to service Mr. Pope. So that's going in whether we put Section 11 in or not. Am I correct on that? I am correct on that. Or I got two nods.
Who's
The
gonna
only
wind up,
difference is the location of it.
who's gonna wind up paying?
I assume VMUD will. Well,
I mean, are they gonna?
VMUD doesn't ever pay for it. It's going to come out of the services or fees that people are charged, I would assume.
Oh, okay.
It's probably servicing more than just Section 11, it sounds like. Yeah, you'll be paying for it.
There will be a new meeting after we
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
It's a simple question, and the only part that the taxpayers are gonna pay is 10% of the total cost.
That's correct.
And if they've done that with other developments?
We have done that on a 75% basis on Enchilada,
You mean-
but that was before the 90% rule came into effect. Or it was right at the same time the 90% rule came into effect.
How about the other developments that were done?
No. Like Santa Ana, the city paid for that.
All of it?
Yes, sir.
And all the other developments that we now see springing up, the city,
No, those are all done by the contractor that's preparing the subdivision. So La Hacienda was paid for 100% by them. Rancho Nuevo was done 100% by them.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So why are?
This is previously platted.
That's the distinction between it?
Yes, sir. Just like the Santa Ana was. The problem is I'm not privileged to and don't understand the conversation they may have had when Santa Ana was put in. So I'm not, I can't speak to that. But in this case, the 10% that the city's paying, let's say that comes up to $60,000. It probably won't be that much, but let's say it comes up to $60,000. The property is going to increase in value up to $80,000 to $100,000 on the recycle lots or more, and on the non-recycle lots, it's going to increase from farmland to $60,000. The property tax increase that we get will pay for this rather quickly. If a house is built on there, then we'll make the money back extremely quick. Any other questions? Yes.
I just wanted to be perfectly clear that there is no upfront risk to the town. The person or the entity that will have that risk is the person putting up the $250,000. Is that correct?
The risk is 25%, the 10% portion, 25% of the 10%. That's the risk right now.
Okay.
Until we negotiate with all of the property owners. So if it were a $60,000 bill, we have 25% of that at risk. So we have $15,000 that is currently at risk. That doesn't mean it's at risk, and I don't mean to imply that, because we've not contacted all the rest of the property owners. But assuming that every one of them say, I'm not going to pay the money up front, every one of them, then that's what we have at risk. If we don't get the 75%, we don't put the road in. We don't do anything. And the cost of the engineering and the cost of the appraisal is paid for 100% by the Section 11 property owners. It's a pretty, it seems like to me, and just looking at it from my perspective, it seems like to me it's a pretty sweet deal for the town.
It's a good deal.
Do I hear a motion for approval to have the engineering and the appraisals go forward?
I make the motion that we move forward with the engineering and the appraisals in section 11.
Your second? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 11. Consideration of Balboa on the left and Zapata on the right. It won't just be cut off straight up Rancho Viejo Drive. It will include those sections. And if you go out there, it's obvious where it will include. And we need approval to authorize advertisement for bids. Now, in this advertisement for bid, we're going to have a ad alternate for the removal of the palm trees on Cortez. We're going to have it include concrete shoulders on both Rancho Viejo Drive and on Cortez.
Well, Rancho Viejo Drive has shoulders already.
Not across the bridge, just around the club. If you go from across the Resaca, there's not any on either side of that. If we take and remove the palm trees, we're going to not cut them off. We're going to take them out at the root level and build that back up where we won't have the compaction problems that you would think of with that hole being created in the middle of the street.
Excavated up.
Yeah, so it's going to be built up compacted, and over time, the base and sub-base will fit in with the other base and sub-base on Cortez. I know we're gonna get some complaints about taking those out because they're so beautiful, but we have had a death, and we have had an accident with a woman that was pregnant 9 months there and had to be taken to, she didn't want to be taken to the hospital, but was taken to the hospital. It's worrisome to me. It's also worrisome to me that if the town doesn't keep those palm fronds cut, and one of them fell on somebody that was walking by and hit him in the head and killed him, then we would be held liable for that. I just, with our streets, with no sidewalks, with no nothing, I just think, get rid of it. But anyway, we've had approved this project before. Now I'm just asking for the approval to get the advertisement and accepting the bids. If we do that tonight, then we're going to have a pre-bid conference on September the 25th. We're going to open the bids on October the 4th. We'll award the bid within 5 days after that. Hope, assuming that there's an awardable bid, we'll award it 5 days after that. So do I hear a motion to approve the advertising for bids for the construction project? So we don't want to advertise for
I make
bids.
a motion to approve and authorize the advertising for bids.
Here a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Did you get that, Gerald? Number 12, consideration approval of resolution adapting the Lower Rio Grande Valley Regional Interoperability Communication System Standard Operating Procedures. That sounds like it's government to me. But what this is the communications we use that we can communicate with all of the other agencies within the valley. It's a standard thing, we do it every year. So do I hear a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? On the number 13, consideration approval of building committee appointments, reappointments. Brent Cannon and Steve Putnak are the people that are up for reappointment. I think they've done a terrific job, and I'd like to reappoint them. So do I hear a motion to reappoint Steve Putnak and Brent Cannon to the building committee?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Number 14, consideration action on ordinance number 157A, set the penalty. I think what we decided to do was different than that, right, Dan? That we're going to,
Well, you actually approved this a couple of months ago, but the one you approved didn't have the penalty provisions. And I just felt like you were opening yourself up to a problem if you then tried to enforce it, if someone went back and looked at the one you enacted. So I'm going to recommend you reenact it with the penalty provisions. They are the same as in the current ordinance. And then all this markup that you see, we were looking at it in my office today. It's mainly just cleanup. It refers to city. We've changed city to town. We made a couple of changes at the mayor's request. The ordinance said that you could set an impoundment fee that someone would have to pay to get their sign back. The mayor asked if we could go ahead and set that fee right now. And that is in paragraph 8.6.4, that would be $50 a day. Under the ordinance, you were to set the impoundment fee, and he just said, well, let's go ahead and do it right now. So that was added.
the entire section 8 was added.
The entire section 8 was added over what was done 2-3 months ago.
That's correct.
8.6.4 was added over what was in your packet.
Yep.
At the mayor's request, we we made it broader. It said that the building inspector was the one that could go pick up illegal signs. We changed that to town so that a police officer could do it, for instance, any town official could do it. And finally, because you do have a problem with the ordinances, and then sometimes you have to go back and read all of the amendments to see what the ordinance really says. We added section 10, which says that this 157A is complete. This completely reenacts and repeals 157. But other than the $50 impoundment fee, there was not an intention to make any substantive changes to what Mrs. Luton's did.
She said 10 days, also 3 days.
That's right. You had said that you had 30 days to comply with a notice. At the mayor's request, we changed that to 10 days. But most of this is just cleanup.
Are there any questions by any member of the board? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I move that we approve ordinance number 157A, setting penalty.
All in favor? Dan, are we gonna table 15?
I haven't heard from him.
Okay.
So.
Number 15, we're gonna table. Number 16, update on the Pizarro concrete shoulder project. I think everybody can see that we've made substantial progress. The contractor has completed the odd number side, which is the west side, I guess it's west side of the street, except for the one home that had the hedge built into the right of way. They're gonna do that when they catch up or get down to that point coming back. And it started coming back. One of the major problems that had been run into is in saw cutting the asphalt to try to keep a straight line. In cleaning that up, it's been found that that street didn't have caliche under the asphalt on the edges. It was just clay. The asphalt then just breaks off. We're going to have some either V-mud or the town's going to have some potholes to fix as soon as he gets through with that. It's been a mess. It's but the shoulders are doing good. If they're less than 12 inches wide or about 8 inches wide, he's going ahead and putting concrete in rather than having to cover up with asphalt. But if they're too wide, he's not extending the concrete to 2 feet, past the 2 feet, and we're going to have to patch it with our person that does pothole fixing. I love the fact that we're putting the concrete shoulders in. I'd never do it again, I don't think, without doing the road at the same time. So the concrete shoulders could be put in and then the road put in to fit the concrete shoulders. This is not a good way to do it.
Mayor, I have a question. I've had a couple of residents on Pizarro asking if we will be filling in on the other side of that shoulder where the yards have, some of them have rather large gaps between their lawn and the actual shoulder.
Yeah, there are some that are that way, and they will be filling those in with topsoil. Or sand or topsoil, they'll be filling those in. Mostly, he's done a good job. It's looked a little untidy from time to time. I've seen some stripe cups out there and that kind of stuff, but mostly, he's patrolled it pretty good. Got a little behind cleaning up some of the yards that he had already finished. I talked to him, and I guarantee you within an hour or two, he had a crew on it and went back and was cleaning up some of the places that he had already put the concrete shoulders down. All in all, he's been a very receptive, very easy man to work with. That company has been real good to work with. We have on, I don't even remember what date. October the 16th. We're having a Meet Your Policeman meeting up here. We're going to have DNA kits, fingerprinting kits, hot dogs, Cokes, tours, The police cars will be here, the equipment they use, the jail cells, all of that. And I think it'd be a great idea if everybody had a child or anybody that wanted to be DNA'd or have DNA. And the DNA kit that we're getting, supposedly you can keep that DNA at room temperature for 15 years. So it's quite a process, and it looks good. You don't have to put it in the refrigerator and cool it and so forth. And then the fingerprinting card. I think everyone that has a child probably wants to have that in their possession. And you may want to for your spouse. Keep track of them too. But we'll also have a short question and answer kind of period where people can ask questions of the various officers or the chief, and all the officers will be here. Good time for crime in Rancho, but everybody will be here. There won't be any crime. But that's at 6:30 on October the 16th. And anybody that you might see, please pass that information along. It's hard to communicate with all the people in Rancho. We don't have a good way of doing that. So try to get as many people out here as we possibly can. And if any of these people that have complaints about our police department ought to come, shake hands, meet the policemen, meet the police ladies, and find out that these are good human people. And voice your concern to them. I think it'd be a great thing to do.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to add the volunteer fire department to that event, since they're also good people. Isn't October Fire Prevention Month, Bill?
Yes, sir.
And since it coincides with Fire Prevention Month, excuse me, I think it would be a good idea to include them in that event.
I had, this event is for a different purpose. I did have a discussion with Mr. Hager about that, and we decided it would not be best at this time to include them. But to have an event for the fire department, the same as what we're having here. There are other things that we're trying to cover with this meet and greet the police, that we don't have the same type of a situation or problem with the fire department. So I'd like to keep this isolated. We can have one the next day. And if Mr. Stevenson, if you'll just let me know when you have one, I'll publicize it as much as I can and get it out.
I don't know, I've got to check and see on this. I'll have to find out how many people might want to be interested in this.
And talk to Mr. Hager, because he and I did have a conversation.
Group than it is on a paid group.
Yeah. It's a little bit different situation entirely. But anyway, we want to have one. And I didn't mean by saying that the police were good people. I didn't mean that the administration people were not good people or anyone else, including the firemen. Firemen are good people too. Every resident of Rancho, in my opinion, is a good person. I didn't mean to sound like I was excluding the firemen from being good people.
Just have a fire at your house until you have that parking.
I'm sorry?
If you don't have a fire at your house, do we have that?
Yeah, exactly. We better have that meeting just to get that. Again, on the table, I think, and also in the back of your book here is the police report. And once again, in checking back, we've never had the police report where it had addresses of where the violations were. It just summary of what the reports were for the month and what the collections were for the month. Number 18, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor?
The microphones were great.